Well, it sure is a nice and peaceful morning. Sometimes you almost have to remind yourself to stop and enjoy it for a minute. Today I've got a bunch of little jobs that need to get done, but the main thing, the main focus that I hope to achieve today is getting all of these old hay bales moved out of the barn and set up over here in the side yard. But first, I would like to finish up the cow sprayer mod so that I'm just kind of done with that for the year. There's only 2 more things that I'd like to do. Well, actually, I did think of another thing. It's probably kind of overkill, but I'll explain to you what that is when we get over there. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. I've been wanting to cut these arms off for a while just because the way they stick out, in my mind, they pose quite a hazard to the cattle. I think the reason that they are this way, and I talked a little bit about it before, part of it was to be able to move the arms way out so that you could get the sprayer to hit their face, but I also think they are partially intended to kind of help guide the cattle through the sprayer and prevent them from making a sharp turn as they come out of it. Now, if that does become an issue and like they figure out a way to sort of wiggle through here without getting a good application, I think rather than just having these 2 arms sticking out like how it was before, it would be better to just get, you know, like a short panel section, maybe only a foot long or 2 feet or however long it needs to be, but something that sticks out, guides them through, but does not pose any hazards. If that's something that I end up thinking that I need to do, I'll do it, but I think this is gonna be fine like this. Next thing is the fill pipe. If you guys remember when I initially filled the sprayer up, I put dish soap in there because that, believe it or not, does kill flies. But the problem is, while you're mixing the tank, you get so much foam and suds in there, it starts overflowing out of the vents, and it just kind of does make a mess. My idea is to connect this tube to the fill tube so that the solution goes down to the bottom of the tank, and then you don't have that water beating down on the top and aerating the mixture, creating the foam. I think that this will work. And it's looking like, judging by the level of the tank, I'll probably have to fill it this afternoon. So we should be able to test this idea in this video, but let's get this thing set up first. The only thing I don't know is how long this needs to be. It's way too long how it is now, but I'll just kind of try to figure that out, and we'll cut it off at length, and it should work beautifully. See if I can get the camera in there and show you guys. I think that's gonna work. And then last thing for today, I got this little inline valve for the suction tube so that it doesn't create a siphon, which it will create even more of a siphon now. I guess I shouldn't say it'll create more of a siphon, it'll just be able to siphon a lot more out of the tank. Before, there's no way that it could have siphoned the tank down any lower than the bulkhead fitting, because once the tank level got below that, it would just start sucking air. But now that I've got that pipe on there, it could siphon this tank all the way down to the bottom of the pipe, which is basically the whole tank. All right, that's gonna work. Now, in hindsight, I wish I would have got a ball valve that was threaded on one side and had a barb on the other so that I could have just like hard plumbed it right into the venturi, but this will work. So now for my overkill idea that I was mentioning before, I just started thinking about it, and I thought that it would be pretty cool if I welded up a little steel tank to mount on the frame here, where I could then just permanently attach the end of the vinyl hose to. And the purpose of this little tank would be, this is where you could put your soap or your permethrin or, you know, whatever you're wanting to put up in the big spray tank. By doing it this way, I could come up with a permanent home for the end of the vinyl tube, which isn't a huge deal, but the bigger advantage to having a, what should you call that? A pesticide tank or a material tank? I don't know. Anyway, the big advantage to that is that you could mix different things in there, and then it wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't have to tie a piece of hay twine around the frame here to hang a jug and fill it that way. Is it necessary? Absolutely not, but it would be kind of a cool little upgrade. And you know, this is one of my problems. Once I start modifying stuff like this, sometimes I don't know when to stop. Well, I thought I was done with this, and then I bumped a trip arm. And do you notice anything missing? This is not spraying for some reason, and the tank's like almost half full. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out what is going on. All the valves are open. I mean, I haven't touched it since yesterday, and it was working fine yesterday. So the only thing that has changed is the water level has dropped, which makes me think that quite possibly the pickup tube for the main pump has a hole in it or a crack in it or something where it's letting air in and it lost its prime. So let me try to peek in there and see if I can see what's going on, and we'll try to figure out what to do from there. This hose right here is what goes down into the tank and sucks the material up and sends it off this way out to the spray nozzles. And right here where it goes into the tank, there's a ton of cracks in it already. I think the sun has been eating this thing up. Yeah, I think this is, I think I was right with my guess. There's a big old crack in it right here. We can only assume air's getting in there. More cracks. Oh my gosh, this hose is like destroyed. It's gonna hurt a thing. Yeah, look at this. This thing is so mangled. Like, what happened? What does this mean? Well, it means we need a new hose, and I don't think I have any. So what's odd to me is this looks like heater hose, and then the rest of these hoses look like fuel line. And the fuel line hoses are all in fairly decent shape, but this one is terrible looking. So I've got an idea of what we can do. There's another hose right here that I think the purpose of this one is to just recirculate the tank, like to mix it up if you wanted to. I've never actually used it. I've never done that. So I think I'm just gonna rob this hose and we'll put it here for a pickup tube and just see if, you know, that fixes it. All right, we got this new hose in. I'll just try it out, see if it works. I might have to prime the pump again. I'm hoping not, but let's see what happens. Yeah, that's not good. While I was up there, I noticed that this fitting here was leaking a little bit. You know, just a drip every second or so. So I thought, oh well, I'll snug it up, you know, to fix that. And when I tried to snug it up, this is what happened. Now I'm pretty much going to lose this whole tank of spray. Fortunately, it's just soap water, so it's not like expensive or anything, but it is frustrating, and I have to figure out how to get that to seal. I'm sure that will be fun. So what this is, it's a little float valve that tells the sprayer when the tank is empty so that it doesn't just keep running the pump while it's dry. And what has happened is, I guess I over tightened it because it was leaking. And it kind of broke on the inside. So in other words, there's no way that I can see where a guy could tighten this enough to make it not leak. So because I have no idea where to source that, and it does still work, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna have to drain this tank, and then I'm just gonna put caulking all around that and tighten it up, and then hopefully it'll not leak and it'll work. Well, we'll let this drain and come back to it later. This was really not supposed to take up my entire morning. While that tank's draining, I figured I'd come down here and get my wires set up for this evening because the cattle will be coming down here then. I also wanted to take a closer look at these paddocks because on the last rotation, instead of having the cattle in the paddock for 24 hours, I moved them up to 36 hours. And in fact, this one next to me, I did 48 hours. The 36-hour paddocks look pretty good, but the 48-hour paddock I think was hit a little bit too hard. I don't think I'll do that again. It really is a balancing act because by extending the amount of time that I have the cows in each individual paddock, I'm kind of helping the entire pasture because it gives it that much more time to recover. But it also stretches out the amount of time between waterings. Last piece of the puzzle right here. And it looks like all 3 bulls are in the bullpen right now, so I'm just going to lock them up so that later this afternoon when I want to walk the cattle through here, I don't have to go around chasing these guys. Let's get some sealant on that float and then we can forget about this thing for a little while. I'll let this dry. Well, if I'm smart, I'll let it dry overnight and not fill this up until tomorrow. So yeah, let's plan on that. Okay, on to the job that I really wanted to do today, and that is get these hay bales moved out of here. The first thing that I guess I need to do is clean out the wing. I got the manure spreader, the New Holland, and then a couple other things parked here that need to move, because what I'm thinking I need to do is put like 5 or so bales here in the wing, just in the end here, so that the cats have somewhere to hide. Right now they spend a lot of their time on those top 3 bales there, and when I start bringing the new crop back, I'm sure that's where they'll spend a lot of their time again. But in the meantime, I'm hoping that they're just satisfied with a few here on the side. Couple more things to move. I've got the scratcher brush here. Not really sure where I'm going to put this. I really need to get it back up, but I've been trying to think of a way to do it so that they don't just push it over again this winter. Then I got this 4x4 bin here that needs a home because this is where the bales are going. So let's quit looking at it and start doing it. This first bale we'll just take down to the bulls. don't think there's actually a lot of eating going on there. Phase 1, the new cat habitat is complete. I'll move their food and water over here just to kind of get them in this area. But I think once I start taking these other bales down, they're not really going to have a choice. That's where they're going to go. Well shoot, when I was flopping that bin around, I noticed that it kind of fell back here on my ram. Looks like it might have scuffed it a little bit, but not terrible. I just don't know what I would do if it started leaking. We'll jump ahead a couple of hours. It's time to send the cattle down here to the back pasture, but I wanted to go ahead and check this wire because I always do a voltage test before I turn them out. We got 5.5 kilovolts coming off of the Gallagher S80, and that'll be plenty. Callie, you better be careful. Come on! They don't seem too interested. Kind of curious how my repair job over here is doing. It feels pretty dry. Honestly, I could probably put water in there right now, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna wait until tomorrow because that is the right thing to do. Well, they're pretty much just sitting down there ignoring me. There's not a single one of them starting to move this way, so I guess we got to get behind them with the side-by-side and nudge them. I see a bunch of the calves are sleeping, so I probably need to go wake them up anyway before we start this. Normally, I would just leave the gates open and let them find it on their own time, which they would do, but I need to get the irrigation valve set in this field, and I don't like to do that when the cattle are in here, because if they step on a valve head when it's open, they'll break the stem, and those things are like 30 bucks a piece, so it starts adding up quick. We should be all set for tomorrow. Hey guys, we good with the new setup here? Well, the cat pack is still hanging around here despite the changes. I don't see the brown fluffy cat. I did notice when I was pulling bales out, he ran out of the barn that way. So I'm sure he'll be back, or he might be hiding behind those bales right now and I just don't see him. If nothing else, he'll come back when he gets hungry. Well, part of me says I should jump on the tractor and scrape this barn out and be done with it, but another more convincing part of me is saying to wait and do that in the morning when it's much cooler. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. And we're back. It's pretty cool this morning, so it's a good opportunity for me to spray some wasp nests. So that's what I'm gonna do first. There's never a shortage of nests if you just look, and I know I've got 2 up here on the side of the barn. This is probably a good time to get those because it's too cold for them to fly. All right, let's fire up the tractor and scrape this out real quick. Every time I do this job since I switched over to round bales, I am so grateful at how much less mess is left in this barn after the year. And I don't know if that has to do with the fact that the bales are bigger or the fact that they've got net wrap on them so you don't lose as much in the barn, but back when I used to feed square bales, I'd have a mat that was like 5 or 6 inches thick of chaff and hay that had just fallen off of the bales that was essentially wasted. And now, I mean, there's hardly anything in here, and we had a really bad mouse problem this winter, so if it was gonna be bad, this is the year that it would have been. Well, it might not be clean enough to eat off of, but it's clean enough to stack hay on, and that's what it needs to be. So I guess the last thing that I need to do before I can start bringing new bales over here is get this pile of wood chips moved, and the reason that I haven't done that yet is because I have an idea of where I want to put this, and it is right here by this gate. I notice in the winter time that right here especially gets real sloppy and muddy, so I want to come in here with the LS and excavate a bunch of this out. This is probably like 90% manure, which, you know, should be spread out in the pasture, not just sitting here in the corral. So once we get all this moved out of here and spread in the field, then I want to take a bunch of those wood chips and pile them up right here, because wherever you have wood chips, you typically do not have mud. And then if I have any left out of this pile, I'll probably just start putting them around the edges of the slab. And my goal is to get a few more deliveries of wood chips dumped off here and just pile them up in here as much as possible. And then also to bale a bunch of rice straw this fall to build up the mound here, with the ultimate goal being, by doing all of these things, to reduce the mud in this corral. So we're not going to get all that done today, but the plan is in motion. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.